Today I'll be talking about how, hopefully what I'll talk about isn't just for students, practitioners, but people outside the industry to understand more about creating a design that's authentic and very unique to your own cultures, whether it's Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, wherever it is. I think it's very important because in this day and age, a lot of people will just go online to look at Pinterest, Architizer, and whatever website to get inspiration from global sources. I warn that there's a pitfall in doing that because you may turn your cities into a global anywhere. So this is just one way and how I try to mine the authenticity of Bangkok, and hopefully it is useful to everybody else. So don't think of this as a design, but it's just a talk about Bangkok through my eyes. So this is a little video of 2 canal boats, long-tail boats. You just saw some tourists go by. Now you'll see the man in yellow starting to pull on a pulley rope. He's pulling one long-tail boat from one side to the next, turning the boats into a bridge. This is the wonderful world of innovation for me in Bangkok, which I think is so interesting because there are no new forms. It's just hacking whatever there is and limitations, what's presented in front of you. And so I study all these, and what I do is I draw, and draw. I draw to understand not only the beautiful forms or architecture, but I draw the dirty water, the stray dogs, the motorcycle taxis, because all of this is designed because it's context for our part of the world. This is a section drawing. There'll be a little lesson in architecture. A section drawing is like you put a knife through your subject and you cut. But in doing a section drawing, I start to show that this is the rope that the man is pulling. He's giving it slack so it doesn't get tangled in the propeller. I draw the details of this ad hoc pulley system to understand how bottom-up invention is actually concocted. So in essence, I'm able to tell a story about urbanism, architecture, and detail with just these 3 drawings. This is very important for me in order to extract these design creativities from local people. They're not architect designed. And I just named them very simply Bridge Boat. And these are what I call Bangkok Bastards. I've been studying and collecting them for over 12 years, and they actually allow me to be creative without having to go online and really tap into my neighborhoods around me. So these are the drawings that we do over the years, which are, to me, are a kind of foundation of our database and what we tap into. I get more excited about my own neighborhoods than going online and looking at flashy architecture because they don't resonate with me in terms of kind of a localness. I'm going to quickly show you 2 projects, one in Bangkok and one outside of Bangkok, to show how I integrate these Bangkok bastards into new creative thoughts. So this is a hotel we did in Ratchawat, right here. It's a unique hotel. It's this building that's buried inside a block. There's hardly any elevations that opens to the street, so it's kind of a funky, old 9-story apartment. So a lot of the projects I do are adaptive reuse because the problems we have, not only in Thailand, but in Asia throughout, is PM 2.5. Most everybody knows what PM microdust is. It has forced us to wear masks even before COVID. So adaptive reuse and reusing old buildings is very important for me. And it's important for Nippon Paints too. You can sell your paints. And it becomes the most important tool. Not bricks, not wood, but paint is very important. So very quickly, before I even start on redesigning this building, I look at my context. And I see that there's an important canal, Klong Prem-Pachakon Canal, that goes from Bangkok all the way to Ayutthaya. Whenever there's a remnant of the city's history present, I always study it first, even before I start to design. So it's this wonderful canal. But if you know a little bit about Bangkok's history, we used to be the Venice of the East. We used to travel on canals. So the water used to be a network of irrigation that feeds fruit farms and rice paddies. But now as streets have come in, we've kind of turned our backs on canals. Whereas before, we used to have these wonderful kind of pier entries that become the front door to your house that opens to the canal. Now we have these funky, I call backdoor entry bridges. Another Bangkok bastard that we kind of discovered while walking along the canal. So they're really interesting because they're kind of a front door to the street, but not really. People are afraid of burglars, so you see how they have these porcupine spikes so that burglars can't climb around. And then they hack beautiful, intricate burglar grills from shop houses and turn them into tentacles on the side. And we just thought that they were quite wonderful because what these bridges are doing is they're bridging the new city to the old city, right? From these old houses on stilts are connected by this bridge to the new artery streets. And so again, we draw to understand the lessons of this interesting new threshold, new and old threshold connecting two worlds, okay? So this is in our consciousness even before we start our design. Now, looking at the apartment building, as you can see, it's this interesting V-shaped building, and it's buried inside the shop house block with only this little facade kind of peeking through like that. So the internal experience will be very important. And there are always problems with existing buildings and adaptive reuse, right? The problem with this is, you see how it's buried inside the shop house block? These windows look onto the back of a shop house that's not very pleasant. Also, do we have interior designers in here? Yes? Okay. Look at this terrible plan. It's very long because it used to be an apartment unit about 9 meters long. And we had to turn this into a hotel. So the problem with that is this space is so long, you don't have enough furniture to put in because a hotel room is just a bed and maybe a sofa. But this was designed for living, dining, and sleeping. So there's a problem in converting this into a hotel room. It's too big. And also, usually when you come through a hotel in the door, there's a bathroom at the front and then a balcony opens up into views. But this one has a bathroom and laundry at the end of the unit so that you're never going to be able to open windows to views. So this is the terrible condition that we have as you go through the door. And so you have the bathroom at the end and balcony that is actually a washing balcony. So how do we solve that? We went back to our research and we kind of concluded that, there's an interesting threshold condition of these bridges. Can we? And the interesting is, this kind of presents a front door condition to Bangkok that's really interesting. A lot of Thai families like to have these front gates. They plant their plants here. They have benches. It becomes an interesting front garden. So what we did was, we created a new conceptual canal and bridge in the apartment unit. So we cut 1/3 of the floor slab out so that this is a void that goes up 7 stories, thereby decreasing the room by 30%. And then we created a new version of our bastard bridge that connects the corridor to the new room. What happens is that this allows what used to be the window that used to be next to the corridor, it isn't so abrupt, so you have a little air garden that separates for privacy. So that bridge and these bridges become the DNA. So as you walk through the corridor, you enter a new front gate, almost like a local Bangkok front gate, but in a new 7-story building. As you walk through this new void, there's a stack effect, meaning this void and the opening on top allows air to move through the building, which used to be air conditioned. We always try to be very good about creating passive ventilation. We created these new JD totems, these sculptural elements that draw your vision up these vertical voids so that you realize that this is a new vertical canal that comes through. And now with the interior, what is happening is the unit used to be this long. Now there's a void, which is kind of a buffer zone. So now we can open windows onto this void, which is a new garden. So looking from the corridor, now we have a view to the open area. As you go to the back, the bathrooms are now using glass block to allow light to come through, but still ensuring privacy, so that there's light coming in from what used to be a very dark and closed-off environment. Again, it's all about making buildings breathe with light and air and more tropical. And these new totems allow the owners to customize the gardens according to festivals, with the Chinese New Year's, and this is the final product. Okay, so very quickly, I know I have a limited amount of time. I just want to show you another project. We not only do projects in the city, but actually outside, which we call rural crossbreeds. So this project is in Ang Sila, which is a fishing town about an hour away from Bangkok. Ang Sila is a fishing village located in Chonburi province, which has become very developed. As you can see, there are all these gated communities, neighborhood malls, repetitive houses. And we were assigned at first to develop this by the developer who were creating these. So Track Home developer actually was a native of Ang Sila, and he wanted to create this project to give back to his hometown, a fishing town. But the first thing we did was, in order to do a new mixed-use community here, we need to study the most interesting neighbor, which is this incredible 150-year fishing village on the side. So if you were to give back to your community, the best way to do so is to revive a struggling industry, which is the fisheries industry in Ang Sila. So what we did for 3 years, we went in and just studied the practices and culture of oyster fishermen, crab fishermen, jellyfish fishermen. And of course, we recorded Ang Sila Bastards, so vernaculars that were both on land as well as in the ocean. So these are oyster scaffoldings, incredible bamboo oyster farms that are built by the fishermen themselves. This is quite an incredible environment. A lot of Thai people don't even know this exists. And as you go out and you kind of experience this, it's almost a city in the middle of the ocean with the breezes and the salty air. As the water goes down, the oysters are revealed, hung from the strings. We go out with our young interns to measure and to draw and to understand how they're built. So basically, they're these bamboo scaffolding that are just poked through into the mud. We also studied what we call that red dot on top, security guard outpost. Basically, in the ocean, there are oyster pirates who at night, they come to steal the oysters. And so the oyster fishermen have to camp out with their shotguns here to protect their oysters. Because if you can come with a pair of scissors and steal one scaffolding, you can make off with almost 100,000 baht. So it's very expensive. But we studied this interesting structure, also bamboo, and we discovered this hidden secret. They bought old rejected car seat belts in order to use them as connectors to bind the bamboo together, because these vinyl seat belts are salt-proof, waterproof, sunproof. This is an incredible example of bottom-up thinking. And in doing research, we also are to understand what the problems with the fisheries industry in Ang Sila is. It isn't just global warming or pollution in the water, but it's actually what we call the fishmonger or the middleman. Basically what happens when fishermen fish and bring in the catch in the morning, they are sold to the fishmonger who offers, very low prices, but takes the fish or the oysters to market and sell at double or triple the price. A problem is they don't cold storage very well, or they take too long to deliver the seafood from the pier to the market. So what happens is, once it gets to the market, sometimes the seafood isn't so fresh and customers buy it, have them cooked on site, and when they take them home, it's already spoiled. So they think the fishermen are kind of cheating them and selling them bad seafood, where in actuality, it's the transport of the seafood by the fishmonger. So we try to kind of adapt and solve that problem. So this is our wonderful fisherman guide and mentor, Uncle Jun, who taught us about everything, how to choose seafood, how to choose crabs. He took us home where his wife, Pili, was able to teach us secret recipes to the seafood. And we thought how wonderful it would be for us to bastardize or combine the oyster scaffolding and the farm outpost to create a new bastard, what we call the Ang Sila Oyster Scaffolding Pavilion, where you'd be able to take guests from shore to the scaffolding in the ocean and pull up the oysters fresh to eat, thereby really telling the story of the fishermen and really showing how fresh and great seafood of Ang Sila is. So this is a quick video of how the fishermen, not contractors, the fishermen load the bamboo from locally cut forests to take out. As they go out, this is how they install the bamboo. There's no electricity in the ocean. So they use kind of a pogo style to kind of lock them in. And I asked them, my drawings specify that these are 2 meters apart. How do you measure them? He said, well, you just do one of these. I said, okay, it's good enough for me. When the poles are down, they put in the cross beams and tie them off with the seat belts. But do you notice how the cross beams overlap? It's because they don't want to cut any bamboo to create ocean waste, so that every piece is used. Okay. Even the canopy that we designed used bamboo that we kind of specified. Let's say if you want this to be 3.5 meters tall, we don't have to cut the bamboo, right? We just let the antenna go up. If you want the canopy to be lower, the antenna get longer. This becomes a new language that is made from the restrictions of material and not creating waste. So on the day of the tour, the fishermen are able to make extra income as tour guides on their fisherman boat. So the guests would get on. We'd first take them out to the oyster farms. And then you'll see a flash of red as you look through the oyster farms and you come upon the Ang Sila oyster scaffolding. The boat will take you to this front end where you climb up the stairs. As you walk through kind of the canopy, you start to see that everything in the scaffolding is made from the fisherman's industry. There are no foreign objects. Even the rope used to tie the bamboo together are the ropes that are used to hang the oysters. This is a beautiful detail, what I call the accelerator. So the belt is here. It's too hard with human strength to tie them tight, so they use this bamboo accelerator to tighten them. and then they tie it off with a string. As you walk to the far end, the three-gabled open kitchen, there's no refrigerator, there's no freezer box. You basically just jump down and pull up oysters and eat fresh. And in doing so, you're able to kind of tell the story of the ocean, because the health of the ocean, the health of the oysters are actually going into your stomach, right? So people listen very intently. This isn't a restaurant in the ocean. That would be illegal. This is an educational platform. But what happens is there's a wonderful pad thai restaurant on shore where the guests can order beforehand, and we can bring the dishes here and serve, thereby spreading the wealth and creating a bigger economy for the community. The best time that we take them out is in the late afternoon and into the evening, where the scaffolding pretty much becomes transparent. As you look back towards the shore, you see kind of the urbanism of the bamboo scaffolding. And as you look out to the other side, you see the open ocean, because we placed this right at the edge of the oyster farm zone. The scaffolding isn't just for tourists, it's for locals who, in the mornings, when they come in, the water level has gone down and they can't dock on shore. So they're able to rest here for a few hours and fish. Sometimes they bring their families out to go fishing. Unfortunately, about a year and a half into this, a big storm came and kind of destroyed the scaffolding, and I was really heartbroken. And I have a line group where all the guests come and talk together. And I told them, oh, I'm really sorry. We're going to have to close down this project because a storm hit the scaffolding. And the next morning, all the past guests transferred 110,000 baht into the accounts. It was about 1/3 of original budget, which allowed us to create a new scaffolding 2.0. It's not a long scaffolding, but it's kind of a more compact courtyard scaffolding right here. Thank you very much.
ขอบคุณค่ะต้องขอบคุณคุณฉัตรพงษ์ด้วยนะคะแต่สำหรับในช่วงนี้ขออนุญาตเปิดโฟลว์สำหรับช่วง Q&A แล้วกันถ้าหากว่าใครมีคำถามสามารถยกมือขึ้นนะคะแล้วก็สอบถามคุณฉัตรพงษ์โดยตรงได้เลย So right now we're opening opportunities for you to ask questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand.
I knew there weren't going to be any questions. So I brought extra stuff. Who wants to see extra stuff for 5 minutes? What? Extra stuff? Well, let me ask the host first. Host, are you okay?
Yes, Brandon said okay. Brandon says okay.
Yes? Okay. I brought a new project that we did. We haven't shown. We only debuted it at the GSD. Yeah? Okay. How much time do I have?
5 minutes.
I can do it 5 minutes. We work with the Karen Chao Kaliang indigenous tribe. My wife is a researcher, and all the great projects that we've done is attributed to her because I tag along wherever she goes and does research. So she's been researching with her colleagues, the Karen community, for about 3 years now, and so I tag along. So this is my wonderful wife. I always try to show her whenever I can. It's my lucky charm. And all these great researchers who do cultural research on the Karen tribe. So basically what they did was they charted kind of a path that connects 4 Karen villages together and basically try to solve a problem. indigenous peoples throughout the world, the problems they have is they have lack of rights, no? They can't be citizens, they can't own property. The Karen tribe have been very good about seizing the rights, meaning they're able to get ID cards, they're able to kind of start businesses. The problem now is the opposite. The new generation are really forgetting what being Karen or Karyang really means. And so this project was really about preserving and redefining what being a Karen indigenous person is in the new society. And so the research group did these drawings and research to really understand Karen agriculture, right? And the different seasons, their crafts, their dance, their food, their textiles. So I think this is a cultural dance. So they create these 17 stories that kind of revive and remind what the beautiful elements of Karen culture is. And we came in to help study the cultural landscape of the Karen. So the Karen tribe have a really unique way of growing rice. It's called a rotational rice farm. So they don't just plant rice, but they plant sesame, chili, flowers, so that there's a mix of different soils. And the interesting thing is they plant squash and pumpkin on the sides as their pesticides, because they said the rats and the rodents would eat the squash and get full at the periphery, and now they won't eat the rice. So these are a series of drawings that we did to show the rotational rice farm. First, it was a controlled burn, and then they plant this periphery wall of squash. This is a handmade scarecrow. It's for the lazy person. So there are shirts and plastic bags that are quote-unquote scarecrow, and this guy just tugs at the string and makes them dance. I do all this to show you all the research we did that isn't architecture, that helps inform the final product. This is a tiengna, or a rice pavilion for rest in the day. This is a way they use bamboo canisters to actually mix all the seeds to spread in the rotational rice farms. And basically, we studied their markets, their existing markets, to see how they utilize bamboo in different ways to kind of solve problems. They're also bamboo experts, but very different from the Angsila fishermen. So with all this, we studied the ecology, the furniture, the bamboo artifacts, the bamboo landscapes. And in the end, after 3 years of research, they asked us, could we renovate their market? They have a roadside market that it's near the interstate here. And as you go in, there are 9 food stalls. That does moderate to poor business. They're right here. Because they're so far inside and it's not visible from the street. So this project is actually about creating a new food court for them, but something hopefully more. When we asked them what they wanted, they said, please use our bamboo. We have plentiful bamboo forests. Thai people will know what this is. It's called tung, right? They're string mobiles, not only unique to the indigenous of Karen tribe, but all throughout rural Thailand. But to them, the wind mobile is very important, because when asked what they wanted to do for fun, they said that they like to watch the wind. These are the actual quote. So the mobiles actually visualize and manifest the wind. So we actually did a very thorough search of the mobiles, to how they work and how little material they use as the bamboo strips that become the structure. And so this is the first conceptual drawing we did of the bamboo market that was based on the DNA of the wind mobiles. The first conceptual project. We didn't think of this as a building, but actually a kind of a scaffolding, an infrastructure from which they can cook and eat, but also feel the wind. And they can hang their newly created bamboo wind chimes. So we did this quick animation, and we put in these fake bamboo sounds, and they said, oh, that's not going to work. You really don't know what you're doing. And so they went and designed their own bamboo chimes, which I'll show you later. So they bastardized the tung and used it as a sail to rock the bead inside the bamboo. So they're much smarter than we are. Okay, so this is the last video. It's only a minute long. So this is the final product.